I crashed your car and left a baby in the mountains. My sister-in-law Amy suddenly dropped by to say, chuckling snobbishly, "Huh, I don't even have a car. What on earth is she talking about? And who's the baby she's referring to? My child is sound asleep in his crib. No way, that's impossible." Just then, I heard my son's cries from the living room. "You're kidding." Amy's face turned pale, and she began to tremble. I couldn't believe my ears when Amy started saying such unbelievable things. "I can't believe what I'm hearing. What you did is terrible." I hurriedly drove Amy up the mountain to sort things out. My name is Layla, a 32-year-old office worker. But I'm currently on maternity leave. I live with my husband Mike and our son Ryan. Mike and I met through mutual friends and hit it off because we both love cars. We got married, and 6 months later, found out we were expecting a healthy baby boy. Since coming home from the hospital, we've been struggling with new parenting duties, with help from my in-laws, who live nearby. While I've always had a good relationship with my in-laws, Amy has never been a fan of mine. She's also 30, like me, but has never held a steady job and is rarely home, always causing the family to worry. The first time I met Amy was actually on my wedding day. She didn't even show up when we visited her parents to formally introduce ourselves before the wedding. The moment she saw my face, she looked at me condescendingly and snickered. "You're the woman marrying my brother? Wow, if even someone like you can get married, you're definitely not his equal." Admittedly, Amy is a beautiful woman with a great figure. She could easily be a model, while I wouldn't exactly call myself a looker. To say such a thing upon first meeting, I guess I'm not accepted as part of the family. I remember feeling incredibly disheartened. And Amy continued to mock my appearance even after that. One time, when we went over to my in-laws' house, it just so happened that Amy had been fired from her part-time job and was in an awful mood. "Welcome home, Amy. You must be tired." What's that? Some sarcastic jab at me for being fired and not even tired. Eck, why does life go smoothly for an ugly person like you, but not for someone like me? Her misplaced anger was obvious, but logic doesn't work with her. "Stop that, Amy. Apologize to Layla right now." Emily, my in-laws, chided her like she was a child. "Please eat some of the food that Layla helped prepare to improve your mood," they continued. "No way. I'm not eating food made by someone with such a plain face. I might catch the ugly from her." She then threw the fried chicken I had made right at me. My husband got up, visibly angry. "Amy, what the hell are you doing exactly? Layla worked hard on that food. Knock it off." Annoyed by this scolding, Amy locked herself in her room, shouting, "Why is everyone so obsessed with Layla?" Even after that, whenever we visited the in-laws, I was either ignored or insulted by Amy. Maybe I started avoiding her subconsciously. I remember feeling relieved when we announced my pregnancy at my in-laws and Amy wasn't there. However, it was close to my due date, and during a family gathering at my in-laws, I was present. She burst into laughter upon seeing my enlarged belly. "Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you have to get so fat and unattractive. Ugly and fat is just hopeless." Amy and I were alone at that moment, and she took the opportunity to belittle me. "Your kid won't be cute if they inherit that face from you. Hopefully, they'll take after Mike." Enough. Stop saying such cruel things. What will our unborn child think if they hear you? Tears instantly started pouring, and I broke down crying on the spot. Mike noticed the unusual atmosphere and confronted Amy. "What did you do to Layla?" But she remained silent. "I have no idea," Amy left in a huff. After this incident, I made a point to avoid Amy and calmly awaited my delivery. During my hospital stay post-birth, my in-laws visited multiple times, caring for me warmly, but Amy never once came to see her nephew, my son. Then, out of the blue, she showed up at our house and began spouting nonsense. "I had an accident with your car and left the baby in the mountains." "What are you talking about?" "I sold my unique car model before my maternity leave." "And what do you mean by the baby?" "I don't have a car anymore, you know." "That's a lie. You always drove it around so smugly." Amy began yelling loudly. The noise woke up my sleeping son, who started crying. "What? Is that a baby crying? This has to be a joke." Upon hearing my son, Amy went pale and muttered those words. I realized something was off and confronted her. "Amy, what the heck is going on? Explain yourself. I saw your car at the convenience store earlier." She hesitated and avoided eye contact as she answered. "Turns out, she saw a sports car just like the one I used to drive at a nearby convenience store and thought it was mine. Can you believe she hopped in because it was left running and just drove off?" "Amy, what on earth are you thinking? Why would you do that?" To top it off, she said there was a baby in the back seat. She'd been driving for about 10 minutes when she heard the baby crying from the back, but thought it was too much of a hassle to turn back, so she kept going. Amy has never seen my son's face, so she probably didn't realize the baby wasn't him. I hadn't driven in a while, so I was having fun and headed towards the mountains, but I couldn't make a curve and went off the road. Plus, her license is suspended. But instead of calling the cops, she had a friend pick her up and left the baby there. I went pale when I heard this happened about 2 hours ago. I left my son with my mom, who was visiting, and took Amy in the car my mom lent me and headed straight to the said mountain. As we arrived, she pointed to a sports car that had veered off the road and was stuck in the bushes. Sure enough, it was the same type of car I'd been driving before my maternity leave. The door was dented, and the bumper was hanging off. As I rushed to the car, a man with a punch perm and sunglasses, holding a metal bat, was standing there. He was an incredibly intimidating guy with a vibe that screamed antisocial. Amy saw the man and yelled, "I didn't know anything. It's your fault," and sped away in the car we came in. "Hey, you the one who did this to my car? Explain yourself, now?" I didn't do it, but I'll explain." I relayed to the man everything Amy told me, and he seemed furious, including about the baby. The baby is only a month old. When I found him, he wasn't crying or reacting at all. Seeing him, I couldn't help but feel deep sympathy as I thought about how the abandoned baby could have been my own son. At the same time, I felt a wave of anger rise up within me toward my irresponsible sister-in-law. "Is the baby okay now?" I asked. "Just before you guys showed up, we called an ambulance. My wife went with the baby to the hospital. No updates yet?" The man's voice trembled with concern, almost as if even the devil himself might cry. Praying in my heart for the baby's safety, I learned something while talking to the man for a while. I then made a request to him. I had been trying to reach Amy all day, but couldn't. She hadn't returned to my place or her family home either. That night, I had my husband text Amy from his phone, saying, "It's okay now, come home." Soon after, she replied, "Okay, I'm coming home now," and returned to her family home. But instead of showing remorse, Amy entered the living room and said something shocking. "Why didn't you tell me you got rid of the car? This wouldn't have happened if you had." Can you believe she tried to shift the blame onto me? And not only that, she didn't seem to care at all about either the crashed car or the abandoned baby. Amy, don't you care about the baby? What do I care? Planning on lecturing me. Just then, a loud knocking came from the door. And who should walk in but that scary man with a metal bat? "Who crashed my car? You better be ready," he yelled, lunging at Amy. Unapologetic, Amy retorted. "I don't know. Who do you think you are, walking into someone's house like this? I'll call the cops." "So you say, but you're the one at fault here." Amy was fighting back, but she was no match for him. "Stop it. Help me. Am I going to die?" She was practically in tears, asking us for help. "My brother texted me, saying it's okay now. Isn't this over? Amy, you reap what you sow." She clung to him, but he immediately shook her off. When Mike said it was okay, he meant I was okay being left stranded. He wasn't talking about you. Give me a break. Nobody cares if you're okay. You stole a car, abandoned it, and didn't even think twice about leaving a baby inside. You're beyond irresponsible. I sharply criticized Amy, who was glaring at me, but she started making excuses. "Before you married into this family, I was the star here. Dad, Mom, and my brother. Everyone was focused on me and adoring me, right? Well, sure, but what you've done is simply unacceptable. You get that, right? Ever since I married my husband, Amy was upset that she was no longer the center of attention. Moreover, once she found out I was pregnant, she was frustrated that all the focus shifted to the baby on the way. So you were in my way, and I wanted to make life difficult for you. If the baby's gone, everyone will focus on me again. I'll reclaim my star status." I didn't know what to say to Amy, who was gleaming with excitement as she spoke. At that point, I was overwhelmed with intense anger. How could you do something so awful for such a childish reason? What do you think a child's life is worth? Stop preaching, you nag. It wasn't your kid in danger, so just drop it. You're so annoying. She showed no signs of remorse and continued to snap at me. Finally, a man lost his patience and grabbed her arm. "Stop yapping and start walking. Come on." "No, help me." "Stop. Dad, Mom, brother, help me. This scary man is taking me away." Amy was still screaming for help, trying to get the attention of her family. Think about the severity of your actions. I'm done with you. You're no longer my daughter. Her father finally disowned her. And then she turned to me, whom she'd always despised, and started crying. "Layla, please, I swear I'll change. Call the police and help me." "No need to call the police. I am a police officer." At this sudden revelation from the intimidating man, Amy was left with her mouth wide open. What did you just say? There's no way someone with a face as scary as yours is a cop. To Amy's confusion, the man flashed his police badge and said, "See, I told you I'm not lying." Actually, I had been talking with this stern-faced man after Amy ran off from the scene. Although initially intimidating, I noticed a gentle tone here and there as we talked. Turns out, he was a police officer all along. I informed the officer about Amy's terrible actions, insisting, I want her to face the consequences. He assessed her actions and stated, besides car theft, she'll likely be charged for leaving a toddler unattended in a car. Holding Amy's arms behind her, he warned, if you resist, you'll be arrested. Hearing the word arrest, it's needless to say that Amy's face turned pale. She had been acting all high and mighty, but now her legs were shaking, and she looked genuinely scared. By the way, the metal bat the man had was for recreational baseball. He happened to have it while checking if anything was stolen from his car. It was not a weapon. Amy was to be taken to the police station, but even now she's wailing, "I meant it as a joke," or "I didn't know a child was in the car. Layla, please help me. Nobody is on my side." Ignoring her tears, I sternly said, "I don't care. You're not my family, and I have no sympathy for you. Reflect on your actions and face the consequences." She seemed to finally get it, and she was led away by the man, shoulders slumped. The court case is still pending, but no family members are waiting for her to pay her dues. It seems she'll have to cover the repair costs for the car, which, being a rare model, could be quite expensive. The abandoned baby was hospitalized as a precaution, but was fortunately not severely harmed and could be discharged in a few days. Hearing that, I finally felt a genuine sense of relief. My son is growing up healthy, but this incident reminded me that you never know when some accident or event could involve him. Until my child is grown and out of my hands, I intend to watch over him diligently.